Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the North Lincolnshire series, a district of 56 parishes in the north of Lincolnshire. Let's see which one we're visiting today. Welcome back to North Lincolnshire once again, everybody, and today we're in the place which you'll find at the very northeastern tip of the county. This has a former RAF base which we'll touch on as we journey around it, and its name is Goxhill. This North Lincolnshire episode is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find her link in the description. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Goxhill sits at the very northeastern tip of the county of Lincolnshire on the southwestern bank of the River Humber, 5 miles away from Barton upon Humber. It should not be confused with another Goxhill, not far away as the crow flies, in East Yorkshire, which forms part of the parish of Hatfield, which we've still yet to cover. Goxhill's name means either Hill of the Cuckoo or Clearing of a man named Gaukr. In the Domesday Book, the name appears as Golse, and in a 1212 source, it's listed as Goulsele. Goxhill can be divided into 3 distinctive areas, those being Goxhill Village, North End and South End. South End has 2 halls, and the older Grade 1 listed medieval hall is known as the Priory. You might remember the old brickworks from Goxhill's neighbour, East Halton. Historically, it's the same story here. Even today, the village is still an important centre for clay pantile production. Goxhill in much more recent times has seen military activity thanks to the presence of RAF Goxhill, which occupies a huge chunk of land to the east of the village. We'll be seeing that later too. And perhaps one of the most interesting recent developments within the parish would be something you can't even see, because it's under the River Humber. It's one of the largest parishes in England, folks. Time for another wander. Our route starts by driving into Goxhill on Barrow Road. On the way in, we've got 2 points of interest. First, Shawbriggs, a small friendly farm shop and cafe. I can recommend because the last time we were up here for East Halton, we tried it out. Right next door is Shawbriggs Farm, which has an old windmill. A 19th century mill, it's now derelict, but it's protected by a Grade 2 listing. Once in the village, our walking route starts outside the new Goxhill Chippy. It's got good reviews and it does delivery as well, according to its Facebook page. Lovely stuff. This is also where Goxhill Station can be found, the last station when travelling from Cleethorpes towards Barton to still have 2 platforms and the original station buildings. All services at Goxhill are operated by East Midlands Railway. The typical Monday to Saturday service is 1 train every 2 hours. The station signal box controls the adjacent level crossing. I think one of the best things about this railway station is the fact that the signal box is still manned, because I can see somebody in there, and also these gates, which are, they're not ones that you push by hand, they are operated via the signal box, but they're not the normal sort of barriers that come down like this, are they? They're the old wooden gates. Don't see many of these around anymore. Goxhill's main retail services are provided by this co-op store, which is right next to the railway station. You'll see as we travel through the village there's plenty of former shops. One thing that Goxhill seems to lack is a pub, but it has had some. The last one to go was the Brocklesby Hunt in 2014, which was situated on the other side of the railway line. Next is the Goxhill Parish Rooms, and outside we've got a book exchange and a general information point. I found 2 of these in the village, there's another at North End. Inside the parish rooms is Goxhill's library, which is open 3 days a week. Today was a Tuesday, which isn't one of them. Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays are your days here. And on the wall there's a defib machine and a little plaque, which tells us that Goxhill was the winner of the Best Kept Village in Lincolnshire competition in 1966. Okay, our next major landmark is the church, which you can see poking out above these houses here. Very bright yellow cottage there. Looks quite nice though. There's a hair salon on this corner, and the parish notice boards are here on the side of the parish rooms as well. We'll stick a card on there and then we'll head for the church. You can mark Goxhill off now, everybody. Well, until we reach the other one in East Yorkshire, of course. That's for a future episode. Now, to access the church, we have to use King Street as opposed to Church Street, which is a little odd. Mind you, the bonus that has is it means we pass this old coach house on the way. At the end of King Street stands All Saints Church. This is a Grade 1 listed building. The oldest part of this one is its chancel, which dates to the 13th century. The nave, aisles and tower all date from the 14th and 15th centuries. The floor and plaster was restored in 1857 and the aisle, chancel and tower followed suit in 1878. It's got perhaps one of the strangest entrances I've ever seen. Look how small this door is. It was open too, so let's go in and have a look inside. It's got to be one of the smallest doors I think I've ever seen in a church. It's probably only part of a bigger door, but I can't see a handle on this, so I don't know. Anyway, we can go in. Let's have a look. Oh, mind my head. Wow. Okay. Well, this is pretty, isn't it? This is very pretty. Let's see what we can find in here. So we've got a font at the back. It's in front of a prayer board. Octagonal font. A banner there for a Sunday school. Some tablets on the wall. Oh, that one's a little bit too high to read. I think it says William Brooks. Yeah, William Brooks. I think that one says. Let's have a look down here. So we've got a nice rood screen. There's a window at the back here. I know people out there like stained glass. Okay. It's very tall, this church, as well. It seems to be taller than most I've been in. It's almost like Howden Minster. It's very similar. I don't know why I'm making that comparison, but there we are. Got another tablet on the wall here. Let's see what this one's about. This tablet is erected to the memory of George Martinson, a benefactor of this church, who was born in the parish January the 16th, 1846, and practised as a solicitor for a period of 42 years in the city and county of Kingston upon Hull. There you go. And there's another one that looks interesting, not far away from it as well. This is to do with William James Melville something. Hold on. Harrison. William James Melville Harrison. Accidentally drowned while serving as a fur trader with the Hudson's Bay Company at Trout Lake, Northern Ontario, Canada. Right. Okay. Now, also, on this board here, we've got something about the bells. There are ports for 8 bells, 6 bells are installed. All the bells were recast in 1955. Here's how they're all inscribed. And underneath, we've got the church clock. Has faces on the north and west side of the tower, and it was installed in 1892. And there's a bit about the stained glass window as well. Brilliant. Quite informative inside this church. I'll leave it a card and we'll move on. Leaving the church behind, we emerge onto Pigeon Cote Lane, which is directly opposite the Goxhill Millennium Green, an open green space off Churchside which spans some 2 acres. The Millennium Green is managed by a trust, and like all the others we've seen, it was created to celebrate the turn of the millennium in the year 2000. Here's a fun fact for you too. There are 245 Millennium Greens in England. Their creation was funded in part by the National Lottery, and every single one is unique. Thorn Lane next, and that building there is Goxhill's former Wesleyan School, which, when it was built in 1855, cost the princely sum of £866. It would become Goxhill County School in 1937. Opposite this was a sign which is slightly obscured by vegetation. It's for Mayfield Manor Care Home, which is hiding away behind the trees to the left. So this wasn't a very easy route to plan, because even though Goxhill is a place you can walk around in a circle, every single time I tried to plan part of the route it missed something else out, so I'm going to have to turn back on myself here in a moment. So we've got the surgery and the pharmacy, which is obviously closed today here. Opposite that we've got what looks to be some kind of old chapel, or it's certainly got the makeup of an old chapel, not totally sure if it is, and that looks like a shop there with a sign outside it. Let's see if we can get across and have a look. Maybe an old shop. Yeah, that's clearly an old shop, isn't it? Yeah, because we've got the co-op now. Got a motor spares shop over there, and this is where I turn around and go back the other way. It wasn't a chapel, but there is a former Wesleyan Methodist chapel close to there, which we'll see later. For now, here's Chapel Street, where we find the old church room. Next up is Goxhill Primitive Methodist Chapel. This building dates from 1824, with notable changes in 1838 and 1892. It's still in active use. Goxhill's Village Hall is in fact a memorial hall, built by public subscription as a memorial to the men of the village who lost their lives in World War I. It was opened by Sir Barclay Sheffield in 1925. Around a few bends we come to Goxhill Primary School, which teaches children from the ages of 3 to 11. This has an excellent reputation, and it's one of the most highly regarded in North Lincolnshire. And using the path next to the school, we can have a look at Goxhill's playing fields now. The playground here was voted in 2020 as the best kept in northern Lincolnshire. So if I'd thought about it, I should have waited for a decent shot of the school, because you can see it quite clearly here from the playground. There it is. It's better than looking through the gates, isn't it? Anyway, this is Goxhill's playing fields playground. There's a dog. He's looking happy. So in the distance we've got a skate park over there. We've got a football pitch. There's a multi-use games area, and then a massive playground with all sorts of equipment in it. No adventure trail. Oh, there is an adventure trail, but I'm not attempting it today, it's too hot. This next section takes us into the area known as North End, and this is greatly residential, with a lot of properties clustered together around narrow lanes. There's the second book exchange, by the way. A lot of these properties are of red brick construction. That's almost certainly down to Goxhill's history as a brick and tile making area. Along the banks of the Humber are old clay pits. Pantiles are still made here by the company Wienerberger, whose factory is on the Humber banks. They make the Goxhill dark red tile. Each one is made by hand with the finest quality alluvial clay. I should also mention that whilst I was here, all around the village, not just up North End, there were these posters advertising a local event, a scarecrow trail, which sounded like fun. Our own trail brings us to Farrow's Pond, an area of newer housing mixed in with the old. I would imagine the name of this street is a bit of a giveaway. It's likely a pond was once here, or at least close by. So you can walk a little bit further into North End from where we are here at the corner of Elm Lane. But I had a look on the map before I came here, and it seems to be mainly just residential properties up there. So not really much point going up there. So our route will go down Elm Lane next, and there's a footpath off to the left down here, which will start to take us back towards the south again. Let's see what else we can spot in this lovely place. That footpath will take us to Mill Lane, and from there it's a walk down Ferry Road to Manor Lane. A lot of the area in question is sparsely populated, so the next thing you'll see is the Manor House. There's not a lot out there about the Manor House, if I'm honest, although to be frank it's not surprising given much of Goxhill's major history centres more around the Priory and the Old Hall. A footpath connects us to Stothart's Lane next, and from this you can see Goxhill Bowls Club. The main entrance to this is a few more paces down Manor Lane. Emerging onto Stothart's Lane and then taking a left onto Westfield Road, we see an area of bungalows. This is the Lounge, which would appear to be a small community centre. And we're back to Howe Lane at the motor spares shop. Over the road is the former Wesleyan Methodist chapel we spoke about earlier. This dates from 1829. So it looks like this was an old shop as well at one time. Clearly not anymore. This is on the corner of King Street where you go down towards the church. I walked past this earlier, didn't even notice it, but luckily I've got to walk back down here back to the car anyway, so yeah, I've caught that now. Now there's one major thing here that we haven't talked about yet, and that of course is the RAF history to do with Goxhill. RAF Goxhill sits out to the east of the village, and we're going to take a drive around that now. There's a memorial to see out there, and we are able to get onto part of the airfield as well. Let's go. RAF Goxhill was used during World War II by both the RAF and the US Air Force. As is stated on Goxhill's village sign, from 1942 this base played host to the American 8th Air Force Station number F345. The Americans often referred to it unofficially as RAF Goat Hill. In 1943, Robert S. Johnson, a US ace pilot in the war, was stationed here. He was credited with some 27 victories during the conflict. The memorial you see in front of you here stands in the northwestern corner of the site, and it incorporates a propeller blade from a crashed aircraft, a P-38 for all you aviation nuts. Since the end of its military use, Goxhill Airfield has remained remarkably intact, and it still looks very much as it did during the war years. All of its buildings still stand, except the control tower. That was partly demolished in 2002. The remaining part was acquired by the Military Aviation Museum in Pungo, Virginia, and after careful disassembly and cataloguing, the components were shipped to America, where the tower has been reconstructed for use by the museum. Chapelfield Road now will take us away from the airfield and back towards Goxhill. So to go with North End, we also have a South End. Now this is a little bit different to North End. It's basically one road with isolated farm buildings on either side, and it runs back towards Goxhill main village from the RAF base. And there you have it. That, my friends, is Goxhill. Although you still need today's picture bit, right? Yeah, that's coming now. Now, one place we haven't been here in Goxhill Parish is up to the very northeastern tip of Lincolnshire, the very edge of the coastline. Now there, under the ground and under the River Humber, there's a gas tunnel, and that's going to get its own special section today. That's coming at you right now. A long time ago, I covered Paul in the East Riding of Yorkshire. Here's what it looks like for those who haven't seen the video. Paul Parish sits directly opposite Goxhill over the River Humber. The two places are connected via a tunnel, but not one everyone can access. It's a tunnel that carries natural gas, and the pipe inside it is the longest in a tunnel anywhere in Europe, measuring 4.86 kilometres. The pipe itself is also a world beater because it's the longest hydraulically inserted gas pipeline in the world. It's a brand new structure built to replace an old pipeline constructed in 1984. The old pipeline ran on the floor of the estuary. In 2009 it was identified as being vulnerable to tidal erosion. The replacement has no such issue. It's buried in a specially constructed tunnel under the riverbed. It's designed to carry 20% of the gas used in the United Kingdom, and it's a crucial feeder pipeline to carry gas to the south. And there you go. Now, with any luck, the heat which I'm currently experiencing right now is going to die off a little bit for my next one here in North Lincolnshire. This time I am going to go very close to the bank of the Humber because I'm going to explore a place that's got a dock. Although in times gone by, it used to have a pier where a ferry was launched to the other side of the water to Kingston upon Hull. I'll join you there next week. This has been the parish of Goxhill, and I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.